So we're on our way in a snowstorm to go try to find someone that's lost in the woods. You gotta say a prayer.
So we're going to do the comments first and say hello to everybody, and then we will get to lesson tonight, which is on Bigfoot's DNA, the link to it. We'll get to that in just a second. Okay, we're going to show the clip real fast. It's about a little over 4 minutes long. Oh, it looks like 8 minutes. But we do talk about some of the things that we talked about here tonight. As we said, tests have been done, but listen to what the man says when he talks about, well, we have ran those tests, or people have. Just make sure we pay attention whenever he talks about the DNA.
Mr. Jerry, actually, very intriguing for me because of my background. As most of y'all know, that I've taught survival and wilderness survival and tracking skills, primitive life skills for near 20 years now. And Jerry does it also. I'm going to give you the floor, man, and just start from the beginning, man. We want to know all about you. I mean, I'm curious.
I come from a medicine people background. My mother was a medicine person, my grandfather's. So we've passed down healing ways throughout the generations, and you're going to have to follow me. Except I wanted to find out more than what I was being told. So I left home and asked my mom when I was talking with her, and I said that I'm going to have to leave again, and she asked me why. And I said, well, if you can teach me everything I need to know about this world, I can stay here. And, she looked at me and gave me a hug, and she said, I'll see you when you get back.
Now, folks, I will say this. Jerry impressed me quite well last week when I was me and my father was having a little bit of a outing in eastern Oklahoma, and I had an interesting night, to say the least, with some audio and some stuff going on, and we discussed that on Trinity Paracryptid last week. But Jerry was literally about 2 hours south of me, and he was on standby if it got bad. And he literally was on standby to shoot up there and come find me. And I appreciate this, Jerry. I wanted to say thank you so much for having my back on that night. And man, you was right there. I mean, you knew exactly where I was at. Very few people would actually know that area that well. Where does Bigfoot come into this? I'm curious because I know you're out in the woods a lot. You live out there. I mean, you're down in Antlers, Oklahoma. And I know you're dealing with them because we're dealing with down there ourselves. My father is actually not very far from you right now. There's 3 troops running that area around Antlers, that stretch. There's actually more than that. The 3 that I've dealt with, he's got a white scar down the side of his face. And he, usually if you see him, there's something going on. It's almost like there's a territorial battle going on in between his troop and the juveniles down there right now. So they're firing back and forth. And the reason I'm saying this is to let people know that area, even to all of us researchers that come into that area, is a fairly active area. I'd say it's almost as active as Upper Unbroken Bow Lake on the backside in between there and Arkansas. So my original question was, have you had any aggressive behavior in that area?
Not in this area, but I have in Clayton, Oklahoma area, which is not maybe about 20, 30 miles from here.
Oh, yeah. I know Clayton real well. As a matter of fact, Big Boy with the car runs that area real well. Dad got drugged halfway down a ridge in a tent in Clayton, Oklahoma. It just ran up. His girlfriend was in it. And what's funny is it waited until I went to sleep right before dawn.
When they ask for proof, I keep telling people we'll come to Antlers, I'll take you out to them. I'll show you where they're at, or, because I am from here. We're kind of like the guards here, and I took a shot at one just to get them to lay down because I didn't have a clear shot, but I had them on thermals and just kind of leaning it out there and taking the best shot by looking at that thermal. They took cover after that, and so that gave me a little space to keep pulling back and. But I knew my other friends were out there, and if I was to really start in with this, that, they would have been killed easy. I teach the ancient histories and the ancient, hieroglyphs and everything, and we see the mixture in the hieroglyphs in the Egyptian Dendra zodiac, and we also see it also in the Aztec sunstone. Their history is also in there about the mixing of the animal, mixing of the human, and how it made, a Bigfoot. And then, these it's just a mixture of animals and a mixture of humans.
So you're saying that in your view, Sasquatch is a conglomerate of different, for lack of better terms, on scientific level, DNA structures or different, they're a mixture of other animals together.
Yeah, and if they would run a test like that, we're testing for DNA of a serpent, testing for DNA of a land animal or a ram, and we're also testing for DNA of a fish. We're testing for DNA of a bird.
Yeah.
They would run tests like that. These things would show up.
Well, we have ran DNA, and they come back inconclusive. They say that they're a certain percentage human and primate, but then they have other, it's interesting that you say that because we do have, certain groups and people have produced that evidence for saying that they could be.
They're only a predator. And in our history, and in many tribes' history, recounts, they're called the arrival of evil. But at that time, they didn't have, the perfect human face. They had, it was more of a disfigurement.
Yeah.
But we were also taught that they're cannibalistic or they eat man, and that they have a bite like fire and paralyze. That's the same attributes also of a spider. We're taught that it's going to evolve to look more like us, to become a better predator, to get as close as it can to us.
You talking to me, I can't believe that you brought up the spider. That's one of the oldest teachings there is. Not very people, they won't talk about Nephilim and angels and stuff like that. You go even farther back than that, and it talks about the spider. And it's crazy that you're actually able to bring that up. If you're really dealing with the ancient ones, with the spiders, why are you even staying around against the warriors? When there are times we have to vacate. And if you're really dealing with the Chavia, if you're really dealing with the ancient ones, buddy, that gun ain't gonna help you.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but, I've got a medicine bloodline. A warrior has to go back with all the ancient knowledges to be that man-child, that person that they talk about in the Bible. But a lot of people aren't warriors. A lot of people don't accumulate all the information before they go back. And when you know connect to the earth, and that truth is the only language in the spirit world. Being in a confrontation with a Bigfoot, to me, I just know that I have to take care of what's in front of me. And I don't see it as a life and death situation, because I just see it as either this is going to be my greatest last challenge, or this is going to be my greatest challenge. No matter what you're looking at, no matter what the numbers are, you don't show fear to anything. This is our world, It's not a predator's world. But also, a lot of the Choctaws, they don't have this information. With my family, we had the oldest house in Antlers. It's the only house that was standing after the tornado in 45. There's energies there because whenever that tornado happened, a lot of people perished in this town. So we had the biggest house at that time. So we took all the furniture out. They put all the bodies in there, and people came in to collect their family. And energies did stay there. And so we've been raised around what people call ghosts, apparitions, orbs, sounds, movements, voices, shadows. So, our medicine background is different than the normal, I guess you would call the normal civilized Choctaw.
And when we talk about on the side of the zodiac, he's talking about here, this is the part B. This is the part they're not reading. This would say be the top of the sunstone, but if you look at the sides, that's where the hidden information is.
Also remember that gifting is never good. Once you start, you don't stop. Especially if you're doing it around your home. They will come to your home. They will eat you if you don't have food anymore. If you can't afford to feed them anymore, they will eat you. Then that next Bigfoot DNA sample will have human in it. Arthropods. Bigfoots are called pods. Arthropods are spiders. Pods. Arthropods. Bigfoots are called pods. Arthropods is also called jointed foot. And anytime they say there's an unknown DNA, just say that's cosmic SPIDER-SQUATCH DNA. It's a mixing DNA. It's going to show up unknown because it's always mixing. It's always moving.
There are different classifications for nebulism giants. You're going to get the ones that are more domesticated. Those are the ones that you're going to see that looks more like, they look more like Pinocchio. That's the best way to describe it, just the skin texture of it. That one I haven't seen, but this one, this is like the classification of a wild animal, okay? So imagine if you were like a wolf, if you get this wolf out of the wild, and the best way to say he's got rabies, and of course, the hair is falling off, there's some hair, but he's more in a rabid state. This is the best way to describe this thing. Sort of a grayish, brownish color, long bony fingers. This thing is massive. And you can tell that he doesn't have any regular clothing on at all. It just, I really can't describe what he was wearing. Maybe something out of a fur, maybe, I'm not sure. But, we backed out. And of course they had a security, stopped us. And he said, he says, that's a nebulism giant. He said, don't get freaked out about it. He said, they're all over the place in this world. The U.S. government has had a vested interest in these things going back all the way as early as 1920s. And they've been trying to send teams out to capture these things and bring them down for safekeeping, so to speak. The 21st level, we were going through, we were talking to some of the scientists down there, and they were talking about how they're doing a lot of experimentation with nebulism DNA. And I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't really ask any questions. I just kind of let them do the talking and we do the listening. There wasn't really any pertinent information that really clicked with me at the time. But what was interesting is that the fact that he said that they've been using nebulism DNA to on kind of a mixture of nebulism DNA, animals, and human beings. They said something like the nebulism DNA is a binding agent in the DNA, so it binds certain types from one type to the next, which is, I still to this day I don't quite understand that exactly, but
as you can see here also, these are offsprings of Bigfoots.
They said something like the nebulism DNA is a binding agent in the DNA, so it binds certain types from one type to the next, which is, I still to this day I don't quite understand that exactly, but there's like technical term names for each one. But what's interesting for me is that the one that's the most wild nebulism giant is actually a Sasquatch. And they came right out and said, look, it's a Bigfoot.